Hey everyone, Sacco here for 4th and 9. I wanted to talk about the 49ers plan this offseason and how they approached filling in the holes of the impact players that they lost. And you look at the loss of DeForest Buckner, you look at the loss of Emmanuel Sanders, and ultimately Joe Staley. The plan this offseason was to replace those players and run it back again and try to make another run at the Super Bowl. And what they did is in the draft, they draft Javon Kinlaw at defensive tackle to replace Buckner, Brandon Aiyuk to replace Emmanuel Sanders at receiver, and then ultimately make the trade for Trent Williams to replace Joe Staley. And let's look at how each of those players fit in. And if it's an upgrade, if we have to wait and see, what's the deal going to be? So defensive tackle, first and foremost, Javon Kinlaw. Living up to DeForest Buckner is going to be incredibly difficult for him. And he's not just going to be a rotational piece. Kinlaw was drafted at 14 to be an impact defensive lineman. Can he be that? I believe that he can be, although as a rookie, we'll see. DeForest Buckner is a hard player to live up to. And when you look at what he accomplished, not only was he one of the one or two best defensive players for the 49ers, you could argue Bosa was better than him, but he was also an Iron Man. He was always on the field. He only missed one game in his career, including the playoffs. He played 66 out of 67 games. So he was always a constant presence for the Niners in the middle of that defense. Can Kinlaw be that? Can he be someone that they can count on to be on the field and be an impact player? Now, I think that Eric Armstead and Nick Bosa and D Ford, these guys will take pressure off Kinlaw, so he's not going to get double teams, hopefully, and he'll be able to make more plays as they're paying attention to those other guys. But can he be as good as DeForest Buckner this year? That's going to be really hard to do. Maybe eventually. I personally don't think his ceiling is as high as Buckner's. We'll see. But it's going to be tough this year for him to do. Receiver. Brandon Aiyuk comes in, and why did the Niners want him? Well, he averaged 10.9 yards after the catch at Arizona State last year. And you look at how the Niners offense is run. Jimmy Garoppolo was 31st in the league at air yards per attempt at 6.5, but he was third in the league at yards per attempt with 8.4. So that's how the Niners offense runs, is they throw shorter passes to look to make big plays after the catch. And Aiyuk fits in perfectly there. Now, Emmanuel Sanders, he meant a lot for this team that doesn't show up on the stat sheets in terms of being a veteran leader and that sort of thing. But when you look at what he actually did numbers-wise, he only had 3 games. Okay, he played 13 games for the Niners, including the playoffs, and he only had 3 games where he had more than 41 yards. He had 61 against the Rams, he had 112 against Arizona, and 157 against New Orleans. Other than that, never broke 41 yards in the other 10 games. And also, he scored touchdowns in his first 2 games as a 49er, but he only scored 1 in his next 11. So production-wise on the field, it's probably going to be easily replaceable. He didn't do a whole lot other than those 3 games. So you hope Aiyuk coming in, first-round pick, can maybe provide more of an impact than that. But keep in mind, it is difficult for receivers in their first year to come in right away and make a big impact. It takes time. You saw that with Deebo Samuel this year. And if there's not an off season, or if the season gets pushed back, or there's less of a training camp, it's going to be even harder for Aiyuk to get up to speed with Kyle Shanahan's playbook. So we'll see how he adjusts, but initially it's going to be harder for the 49ers with Aiyuk and Kinlaw to have those rookies replace what the veterans meant to the team, just because it takes rookies time. So I think ultimately Aiyuk's ceiling will be higher for what Sanders brought to the team, but Kinlaw, we'll see. Buckner is very difficult to replace. Now, the third person, Trent Williams. We love Joe Staley. He's an all-time 49er, and he had a great career, but towards the end, obviously he's not the same player that he was, although he was still very good, but I think Trent Williams is an upgrade. So if Trent Williams is an upgrade on the offensive line at left tackle, I also think Daniel Brunskill is going to be an upgrade at guard over Mike Person. So you have those 2 pieces on the offensive line. Does the offensive line improve? You could very well see that, not only with run blocking, but also in pass protection. So that's huge for this team. So how does this team get better? Well, if the offensive line gets better, and if Jimmy Garoppolo takes that next step, the offense as a whole can be better as what we saw last year. And that can make up for losing a Sanders, losing a Buckner. This defense is still going to be very good. You look at the defensive line, even though it wasn't as deep as some had perceived, because the depth, Ronald Blair, Julian Taylor coming off ACLs, Kentavious Street is always hurt. Solomon Thomas, we're waiting for him to take that next step. But now with Kinlaw, it is a little bit deeper with him and Bosa and DJ Jones and Ford and Eric Armstead. The defensive line is still there. Fred Warner, Quan Alexander, Dre Greenlaw, that's a great linebacker group. And you still have to feel pretty good about the secondary, even though there's questions after this season. Mosley, Sherman, Witherspoon, Williams, Tartt, and Ward. That's a good defensive backfield. So the defense is still going to be very good. if that offense can take that next step. You say next step, they did average 29 points a game last year, but they can even be better. If they can do that, the Niners can still be in Super Bowl contention. And I still believe this is a playoff team and still one of the better teams in the NFC. But are they as good as they were last year? We'll see. And there's going to be some stiff competition in the NFC. Definitely the Seahawks are going to be tough in the division. The Bucs are going to be there. The Saints are going to be a team to be reckoned with. So we'll see what the Niners can do. But overall, I like what they did this offseason. They filled their holes. We'll see in time how those players fit with San Francisco. But overall, you have to like the approach. Thanks for checking this out. This is Al Sacco for 4th and 9. Hey, hit that subscribe button down there. We got tons of great content and a great staff that's going to be bringing you a lot of videos. Check them out. Thanks, everybody.